I thought that this was the golf swing from heaven. This is a remarkable thing to watch Mike Austin swing a golf club. He generates power, and yet he does it with a sort of poetry in his swing. It's wonderful to watch him. I am not a golf instructor, but I've been around hundreds, if not thousands, of golf teachers, and I love the concept that you can really hit the ball. It seems to me that so many teachers are telling their students to wait or to create a lag or to do something that is very difficult to do. Mike is aggressive, and yet at the same time he preaches this tempo, so it makes a lot of sense to me. I have this image in my mind of Mike Austin in his skeleton suit on the old television shows, and it's very clear in my mind, and sometimes I think of that on the course. Here he is, and he's got that funny looking suit, which is just great. And I can create an image in my mind of Mike telling me some of the things he wants me to do. So. He's a very feisty individual, but I think he's brilliant. I am convinced that he's one of the smartest men who ever walked the earth. And I love Mike Austin. I have stood in Mike Austin's front yard. Not only have I been on the range with him, I've stood in his front yard with Mike Austin telling me, do this, do that. And of course I've tried to incorporate it. And I'm not a great player, but I love the game. I play a lot, and sure, it's helped me because I can feel aggressive. That's what I want, to be under control as a golfer and yet be able to feel aggressive and feel that I can really hit the ball. No question he is underappreciated. I think he has a cult following, and I think that people who know of Mike Austin revere him, but many people, particularly golfers, do not know of Mike Austin. The teachers know of him. He's been around a long time. He has a lot of respect, but at the same time he's also a character. So he's known as a teacher on one hand, and this guy who's had 10 million adventures on the other hand.
You look back on your life and you think about the things that have changed your life. When it comes to golf, the happiest day of my life was having run into Mike Austin and him driving it past me 60 yards on the first hole. And he became my friend and is almost like a father to me for the last 25 years. Has taught me more about the golf swing than I could ever read in a book. Too many people let this move off of the ball. They let the head move off the ball and they say it's okay as long as it stays on this right line of the leg. In my opinion, and in Mike's teaching, the lower part of the spine works this way, and this head doesn't come off of the ball. Because when you start forward, if the head is moving with it, you dissipate the torque and the motion of the club head speed. There's an event that a lot of people are not aware of, but when Mr. Hogan had the unfortunate accident with that bus, and he's lying in the hospital for all these days, he remembers a guy that he played, a golfer that he played in the Ryder Cup. The man was from Scotland, and all he hit was a left to right shot. So as he's starting to get his health back, he talked to Mike and he said, he called Mike and he said, as soon as I get out of here, I want you to help me hit the ball left to right, because he said this man never missed a shot in the Ryder Cup, and he says I want to hit that ball left to right. Prior to that, everybody knows that Hogan hooked it from one fairway to the next. So when he got his health back a little bit. His first round of golf was played with Mike Austin at Bel Air Country Club. And he worked with Mike to not only hit the ball left to right, but also hit it with power left to right. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but Mike worked with Ben Hogan to get him to hit the left to right shot. And that credit comes to Mike, and Mike's never received credit for that.
I was first introduced to the Mike Austin method by Dan Schauger, a teaching professional in the Los Angeles area. Dan taught me so much about golf and so much about the Mike Austin swing. He's one of the best teachers in the world.
In just about 4 months, he went from pretty much standard golf swing to the Mike Austin method, increased his club head speed amazingly and his accuracy amazingly, winning long driving contests after only 4 months, from a 14 handicap to a scratch player in about 8 months.
The Mike Austin method has really changed my game. I'm much longer now, I'm much straighter, and it doesn't require as much maintenance as the classically taught swing. What's different about this swing is it feels effortless. It's very efficient for the amount of energy that I put into the swing. I get so much more out of it than I ever have before, and it's very easy on my body. It feels so natural and so good. It's as natural as walking. I was a fairly long hitter before I had the Mike Austin swing. I averaged about 285. However, it still added about 50 yards to my longest drive. Last year on the long drive circuit, I averaged 336.8. So from 285 to 336, it added a lot of distance. And then also it's very accurate. Also, I never in a long drive competition, I never missed the grid. In an overall competition, I never went through and got disqualified because I missed the grid completely. It's not about hitting it long. It is about hitting it long. It's about hitting it straighter. It's about improving your whole golf game. I've had a chance to learn both swings, the classically taught swing and the Mike Austin swing. And if you go into this swing with an open mind, I think it's easier to learn actually.
How do you do it? He had incredible timing, and all of the energy that he put into the golf swing went into the ball. The way he was swinging in his heyday, that when they checked the speed of his club head, it was actually faster after he hit the ball than it was prior to hitting the ball. In other words, instead of his club head being slowed down by the stationary ball, his energy continued to increase as he went through the shot. Michael's golf swing is not anything like any other golf swing. It's a swing unto its own, invented by a mechanical engineer and a doctor of kinesiology. The motions that he makes are totally counter to everything that's presently being taught. He uses the shifting and turning of his body weight to power the swing. He doesn't try to maintain a perfectly straight up and down spine. He allows his lower end of his spine to move quite a large amount, and the releasing action of his arms and hands are totally different. He keeps the upper body well behind the lower body so that the driving of the legs causes the rotation and creates the plane. Other than that, his swing is exactly like everybody else's. It looks so smooth because the pivot is controlling the speed of the arms. His head does not move at all because of his understanding of the way to shift the weight without moving the head. And basically what he does is his body brings his arms into position and his hands hit the ball. Basically, this is a leverage swing, and it's designed around something that the average person can do. Now, naturally, some people are going to be quicker than others. Some people are going to be stronger than others. But anyone who adopts this method will hit the ball farther and, more important, straighter.
Mike's record is just almost beyond belief, and part of what I did was undertook to actually verify the record while I was writing my book. And I talked to eyewitnesses, and I talked to people who had seen Mike hit under other circumstances, and I fully believe that he did what he's credited for in his record. This is a record that almost needs to be put into context, which is that he was 64 when he did it. He was not living in an age of great advanced fitness. Furthermore, of course, the technology of golf has improved enormously since then. And to think that his record has stood for 30 years is just really shows what an amazing achievement it was in the first place. I wrote an article for the Los Angeles Times called "The Man Who Cracked the Code" about Mike Austin, and about I looked in great detail in terms of, is his swing significantly different, and how did he achieve this amazing record? And I think you have to start with the idea that he was a big, strong guy and an amazing athlete. But that doesn't cover everything. That wouldn't account for a 515-yard drive. What I discovered in the course of my research was that although Mike Austin, to the naked eye, has a very good-looking swing, not significantly different than anybody else on the PGA, he was doing things differently that caused an enormous advantage in distance and accuracy. And that's why I called it "The Man Who Cracked the Code," because I think all golfers feel there's a better way to hit the ball, and Mike Austin is the one who achieved it. Well, it's interesting because Mike is not exactly a household word, and yet people who play golf all seem to know about Mike Austin and respect what it is that he's achieved. He seems to be almost a mythic figure, where when you bring up his name, people speak in hushed tones about what he achieved. And of course, if they're golfers, they want to know how he did it. What I like about the tape, Mike Austin, Secrets from the Game's Longest Hitter, is that it gives a complete system. It doesn't give just tips and recommendations to try this or try this. I mean, it's a fairly specific blueprint of a better way to hit the golf ball. And I really didn't begin making significant improvement to my distance or my accuracy until I started watching the tape and watching it over and over again. Mike Dunaway, I think, has mirrored the Mike Austin swing almost as well as anybody else, and of course he's gotten incredible results. Mike Dunaway is an amazing student of the game, and I think he understands Mike Austin's teachings and his style of teaching better than anybody else, and complements it by bringing his own unique perspective and the ways of describing it. And of course, the wonderful thing about Mike Dunaway is that he can also demonstrate the amazing advantage of the Mike Austin swing too. And yet I have to kind of give him a lot of credit because he's very humble about his own achievements. So I think together the Mike Austin, Mike Dunaway team are quite a good way to learn this golf swing. When I watched the Mike Austin video, I immediately began to see quite a bit of improvement in my own game. There were days when I was hitting the ball to the parts of the golf course that I'd never been to before. I also began to sense that I could generate a lot more power, particularly with my lower body, than I had ever really explored before. Some of the more specific things that I achieved was I holed out from 150 yards almost within a day or two of watching the tape, which is a lot of fun. Most golfers seem to sort of find their swings, but Mike actually constructed a swing based on his knowledge of kinesiology and human anatomy. And I think basically what he did was he looked at the human body as a machine, and he said, what's the best way to hit a golf ball with this machine? And one of the other aspects of it, it's a much healthier way to swing the club, but what everybody's interested in is that it's also a much more powerful and accurate way to strike a golf ball.